I'm Mac McGrath, CEO of National Streaming Sports, and I'm excited to tell you about our Roku Sports channel. Already has over 12,000 followers, 20 podcasts, over 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4 star rating. Our channel is anchored by great morning shows, afternoon shows, and nighttime shows with great shows in between.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought I was. So anyway,
Yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so this is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
It's the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Start off your week here on Roku and Northeast Streaming Sports, YouTube, Twitter, all kinds of different platforms that we're on. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack, as we cover the latest in sports as we start off this weekend. And Jack, you know, I was going to start off with the MLB pitchers, but I want to start off with a guy going to the Olympics. He went there first at 19 years old. He's going to be there again at 40 years old. And, of course, that's LeBron James. And, you know, I think because of the comparisons to Jordan and some of the other great ones, we kind of shove LeBron to the side a little bit. Not that I'm a big fan of what he's done with the coaches he played for, and some of the personal things he's done. And maybe a lot of people think that he put Bronny James in a bad position, kind of leading the way for making the road smoother, getting to the Lakers. But listen, this guy is unbelievable. And he's going there to win gold at 40 years old. If he gets this gold medal and he's influential and then winning these games, Jack, can we finally say that maybe he's better than Michael Jordan? Maybe he is the greatest basketball player of all time.
Not because of the Olympics, Mac. No one takes the United States winning an Olympic gold medal that seriously. I mean, it's a wonderful accomplishment, but the USA has the best players in the world. They're expected to win. The team is stacked. They're expected to win. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win because the other countries have kind of caught up to a large extent. They have certain star players and they have certain star NBA players.
And welcome to the Mac and Jack Show. Good old Mac, once again, a throwback. We are doing our shows in honor of Mac all this week. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Good. You gave us a highlight and then you cut it off. I wanted to hear what I had to say. I was actually enjoying this segment. It was timely. Apparently, it took place. You got out of the files. Something that happened within the year after the Lakers drafted Bronny James, because we talked about Bronny James going to the Lakers, but it was right before the Olympics, and the United States did win the gold medal as expected, and it doesn't change LeBron's status, but the longer LeBron plays as to open up the comparisons to him and Jordan, they're going to continue to go on, but the longer he plays, the more he compiles numbers, the better chance in time that he can be recognized perhaps as a greater player than Jordan. And if you want an example, I'll point out Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali. People don't realize when Muhammad Ali retired from boxing, the majority of people by far rated Joe Louis ahead of Muhammad Ali as the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. But of course, generations pass. People pass on, new generations come up, and the young people kind of bond with a more recent athlete. And they bonded with Ali over Joe Louis because Joe Louis became a relic, okay, to society.
Yeah.
They recognize his greatness, but he wasn't as revered as Ali was to the newer generation. And I think as the decades pass, Jordan, other players come up. Jordan will still be revered, but I think it'll be a case of one or two other superstars, LeBron, maybe Wemby in the future, someone like that is going to catch up to Jordan in status, or we're going to say maybe they were a little better than Jordan. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and I purposely stopped that right there because that really wasn't too long ago that show was filmed, especially because Bronny hasn't been, quote unquote, in the league that long. And of course, we've seen him more in the G League now, Jack, than we have with, his dad. And then Mac mentioned that LeBron was 40 and LeBron is still 40. So that video was actually sometime last year that it was filmed, bringing it out of the archives. And here we are talking about NBA today. The NBA playoffs are going on, Jack. And LeBron is not the conversation right now because they have been eliminated early on. But the Knicks and Celtics, Mac's team, the Knicks, now have a 2-0 lead over the Celtics. I'm shocked. Are you?
I thought the Knicks were going to win one of the two games in Boston, and I thought they'd take this series to 6 games. I'm surprised how disorganized the Celtics are, but I got to point something out, and people hardly speak about this. Porzingis has some type of virus. He's limited. He's not the same player. He played 14 minutes in the last game. He was okay when he was in there, but he's limited in how much he can give. And Porzingis is a difference maker in close games, an absolute difference maker. Jaylen Brown's been terrible. You see some of these shots people are taking, and when I hear people say, well, the modern NBA players, on teams, you put a team of the modern top NBA players, how superior they'd be to the teams in the 60s and 70s. Just watch this Celtic team. That's all they're doing is taking 3-pointers, long jump shots. I mean, yesterday there was this play with Drew Holiday. He was right under the basket, laid the darn ball up. So instead of laying it up, Drew Holiday kicks it out, to Jaylen Brown past the 3-point line. Like, what the heck was that all about?
I mean, Tatum
changes, run and gun, 3-pointers, get in position. I understand what the analytics say, what the percentages are. But if you can get an easy 2-pointer, a shot from close range, a 2-pointer, why take a much more difficult shot and try to set up from 3 points? I just don't get it.
I mean, Jason Tatum's been inconsistent. You mentioned the other leaders. Poor shooting. He went 5 of 19, Jack, for only 13 points in game 2, far below what his average has been for the franchise. He's known as the cornerstone of this team. He also has looked like he has a lack of aggression. He's just not as momentum as he has been. He's been settling for the contested jumpers instead of attacking the rim and defending those fouls or trying to draw fouls. And in some instances, he just doesn't look like he's the leader that he has been in clutch performances.
Yeah, you just get the feeling the Knicks are a little more focused here. But the Knicks have a 2-0 lead. They're going back to Madison Square Garden. And is Boston in this series? Absolutely. They're very much in the series. A number of teams have come back from a 2-0 deficit. And consider this, Boston does play better on the road than they do at home. And all Boston has to do is win the 3rd game. And the mindset of this whole series changes. And for all the people who had picked Boston and are now doubting the Celtics, consider this. People were thinking the Knicks wouldn't even take it to 6 games. The Celtics had beat them in 4 or 5 games. Well, if that's the mindset, then keep that mindset, because the Knicks have to win 2 more games. So if Boston was going to beat them in 5 games, they have 5 games left. Let them go 4 games to 1, and that means they would have won the series in 7 games. But I really think the Celtics have to win this 3rd game, because once a team gets in the 3-0 hole, it's an upward climb. But a couple of years ago, remember, the Celtics were down 3-0 to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics won the next 3 games to force a 7th game at home.
Yes.
And they were awful in that 7th game. Jimmy Butler and the Heat stepped up, and they wound up going to the finals to play the Lakers. That was about, 5 years ago, whatever. And they lost to LeBron's Lakers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you made a good point. That's what I was going to bring up, Jack. They have to win this next game. I mean, they look like they are mentally and emotional fragile right now. Let's talk about those leads that they have blown. They have lost double-digit leads in both games 1 and 2, especially concerning a veteran team. They are a veteran team. They're coming back. They're defending champions. I mean, critics have really hopped all over this to look at the visible frustration. You can see the frustration on these players' faces throughout the Celtics team, when things are not going their way. They have been overly relying on these 3-pointers. I blame Steph Curry. He's been the 3-point king, and everybody seems to think that's what you do in playoffs. But the Celtics have gone from cold to frozen, Jack. I mean, their 3-pointers are not going in. They do not have diversity on their offense. And let's be honest, they just don't even have a backup plan. They're so reliant on these 3-pointers to catch up and make the difference that they're blowing these leads. Meanwhile, the Knicks are playing aggressively. They're guarding the perimeter, and they're forcing the tough looks.
Yeah, I mean, you used the key word diversity, okay? The Celtics really don't have it. They've just been shooting 3-pointers, and their shooting has been really poor. But it's going to get better. So if I'm the Knicks, I would be somewhat concerned, because the Knicks are going to have to make certain adjustments, and they basically give a lot of minutes to their starters, as most teams do. I mean, just look at any NBA box score, and you have about six guys with a DNP next to their name who are not even seeing any time. You want the Knicks to start utilizing Mitch Robinson a little more. He gives you a certain defensive presence that Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't give. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns is fine grabbing rebounds, and he's not a bad defender, but Mitch Robinson is a little bit better as a defender. But you can't have him on the court towards the end of the game. Because, I mean, one of his foul shots the other day was laughable. Like, what happened? Did that ball slip out of his hand?
That's why I was like, that could not have been a real shot. I was watching that, and I was like, was that supposed to happen? It just looked like the ball had some type of debris on it, because it was just such an uncontrolled shot.
And the Celtics kept fouling him at the end when they had fouls to give. And Tom Thibodeau wisely took Mitch Robinson out of the game when he'd finally be forced to shoot. Okay, he didn't have to go to the line on the 2 fouls before that when they fouled him. So it was okay to leave Mitch Robinson in. But then Tom Thibodeau thought, I can't leave him in the game anymore, because next time he's going to have to go to the line. And that's a terrible percentage situation for the Knicks, because if he goes to the line for 2 shots, chances are he misses 1 of the 2.
Mm-hmm.
So you're giving a possession back where the other team could get 2 or 3 points. So you kind of, analytics-wise, you're putting the Celtics in a position to catch up. Listen, the Celtics are going to hit a number of those shots they missed going forward in these playoffs, okay? So the Knicks are going to have to step up as well. And it's one game at a time. Yeah. I look for bounce back from the Celtics in game 3. I hope not. I hope the Knicks are riding a wave of momentum. You're hoping the Celtics are a little bit down in the dumps, so their shooting woes continue, and the Knicks can go up 3-1 against the Celtics. Because if they go back to Boston and the Knicks have a 3-1 lead, chances are Boston's favored to win game 5. It doesn't mean they will. And then the Knicks are under a lot of pressure for game 6, because they don't want to go back to Boston for game 7. So in other words, any thought of the Boston demise, forget about it. No one thought the Celtics would be down 2-0 at this point. No one. I mean, I thought in the game, the night before last, that they'd win out by double digits, 15 points or so.
Mhm.
When they got up to 20-point lead, I said, why didn't I pick them to blow the Knicks out? I should have known better. They lost game one. They're coming
Yes.
out with a vengeance, and they're going to set things straight. And the Knicks clawed back and forth. Jalen Brunson, I don't know if you rate the top 10 players in the NBA, how many people would put him in the top 10? If they did, I think he would be rated 8th and 9th at a lot of parties. I don't have a list for that. If I have one criticism of Jalen Brunson, sometimes he tries to do a little too much, carry the whole team on his back. He holds the ball, and tries to score by force. But listen, Jalen Brunson's the leader of that team. He wanted to be a Knick. And what were the Mavs thinking when they let him go? They didn't give him the contract. I mean, they didn't think he was going to be that good, and they had him. But his dad's an assistant coach with the Knicks. So he's at the place he wants to be. And he took a little less of a contract than he could have gotten, Jalen Brunson, because he wants to keep things intact. Also, Mikal Bridges, the Knicks gave up a boatload in future draft choices for Mikal Bridges.
They did, yes.
You don't give up what the Knicks gave up unless you're getting a superstar type player, a true impact player. But I'll tell you this, if the Knicks win the NBA championship, and it's not far-fetched now, because if they beat the Celtics, and there's a good chance the Pacers beat the Cavaliers in their series, the Knicks can beat the Pacers in the Eastern Conference.
Yes, they can. Mm-hmm.
And whoever's coming out of the West, the Knicks have a shot to beat anyone coming out of the West. It's not like you have the Lakers of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant awaiting you like a powerhouse.
No, not at all.
They can beat anyone in the West. If they won an NBA championship, the Knicks, are you kidding me? That Mikal Bridges deal is worth it no matter what happens in the seasons to come.
I mean, they're really going to have to bank on that because the Celtics as a whole have been priding themselves on defense, but they've been slow on their rotations. They allowed key Knicks role players to get hot, Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. They've been struggling to contain Jalen Brunson, who you talked about him. They've been, he's been picking apart their mismatches. Now, they need to make some coaching adjustments.
You're thinking of last year, he's still on the Timberwolves. You're thinking of the other. You're thinking of the other game,
because we were bringing up Jalen Brunson, but with Joe Mazzulla's game plan,
well, they played together at Villanova. That's why you thought that they were teammates at Villanova.
Well, no, that they've been picking apart him. The Celtics have been doing that to Jalen Brunson, is what I'm saying. They cannot contain him. They can't contain Jalen Brunson. That was what I was saying. Like he's basically been picking them apart. They can't hold him down. You know what I'm saying? But there's got to be some coaching adjustments with Joe Mazzulla because right now Tom Thibodeau is not playing house money. He's playing chess while Joe is playing checkers. Their timeout usage and rotations. I mean, they're not using good game clock management at all. That's why they're trying to do all these fouls at the end, Jack, to try to make up. And they're blowing these leads, and they have lack of game adjustments within the game. Like it's horrible.
Yeah, well, Brunson got fouled at the end towards the end of the game, went to the line, hit his shots. But Joe Mazzulla, they won an NBA championship last year. People in Boston now calling for him to get fired. I mean, what
have you done for me lately?
I don't care. Listen, I don't care if he is having a lousy time coaching in the playoffs. I'm not saying he is, but I don't care if he is or isn't. You don't fire a guy who just won you an NBA championship unless things are so out of control for whatever reason. You just don't do that.
It's what have you done for me lately? And all they're seeing is what's happening now. They forget about the past. You know how quick people forget about the past, Jack. It's like, if it's not happening now, it doesn't matter It's like win now, win every time, or else we hate you and we're tired. We're trying to get rid of you. Now, you brought up the top 10 NBA players, and I look while we've been sitting here, and shockingly, Jalen Brunson is not on that list.
Yeah, he wouldn't be on a lot of lists because there's so many great players in the NBA. I mean, even pairing the Knicks and the Celtics, okay?
Mhm.
Would we put him ahead of Jason Tatum?
Who's number
Probably
4?
not.
Jason Tatum's on this list as number 4.
Right. I'm just saying, you just look at teams. Would I put him ahead of Brown? I actually would. Some people wouldn't. That's the thing about it. And then you look at the other playoff series. I mean, you look at Denver. Would you put him ahead of Jokic? No.
No, you will not.
Obviously not. Would you put him ahead of Sean Gilgeous Alexander? I don't think so.
No.
I hate
And
seeing
Jokic
it.
is number 1, 3 times MVP,
Right.
most
Would you put
complete
him-
offensive big man in the league.
Would you put him ahead of Giannis?
No, Giannis
mean,
is like
no.
Giannis is number 2.
Would you put him ahead of Steph Curry? No.
Steph is number 6.
Yeah, I'm just saying you're thinking
Yeah.
of teams. Now, this is an interesting one, really an interesting one. Would you put him ahead of Anthony Edwards?
I knew you were going to say that. So I probably would. And Anthony Edwards is not on the top 10 list.
Yeah. So with Anthony Edwards, we'll see how his series concludes and everything, rather than, and
maybe
we'll see
top
how his
15
season,
players.
concludes.
Yeah, like
mean,
maybe
that's a big one.
top 20 players for sure.
Yeah, but I would put Brunson. I would feel comfortable putting Brunson ahead of other outstanding players like Devin Booker,
Yeah, I would put him at like number 9 or 8.
Tyrese Maxey. I would put him ahead of those guys. You could say it's close if you want.
Yeah.
You could say it's close, but I would put him ahead of those guys. Okay?
Pretty
I would
close.
put him ahead of Jay Morant. I would place him above a lot of top of the line guys.
I mean, but you bring up Ja Morant. I mean, would we really even put him in the same category?
No, not even the same category.
Yeah, because
What about Luka? Someone like Luka?
Yeah.
Everyone would put Luka ahead of Jalen Brunson, but the more you think of it, Luka is a liability on defense. We never consider that. It reminds me of baseball where you look at a guy's numbers. Oh, he has a high batting average. He knocks in a lot of runs. He hits a lot of home runs. But meanwhile, before they had the designated hitter, the guy would be floundering around the outfield, and giving up runs the other way, but it didn't show in the box scores.
I mean,
by the way, my favorite player, I hate to say it, your favorite player, Freddie Freeman, got off to a great start. He shouldn't be my favorite player. I'm a Yankee fan.
I have his
I relate to Freddie Freeman because I was a first baseman who wasn't good enough to make the major leagues. And but Freddie Freeman was just great role model, great Atlanta Brave, great, has his legacy as a Dodger. It all worked out for him. But we'll talk baseball, I guess, another time.
I miss him every time I see him suit up for the Dodgers.
Wonderful ambassador of the game. Everything good about the game is Freddie.
He is the face of the Braves. I don't care if he is on the West Coast. I have a couple.
Really? Wait. You're an Atlanta Brave fan. I'll stick on baseball a little bit.
Yeah.
You remind me of Mac. We bounced all over the place.
That's what you
got.
We
were like the Celtics, out of control. No. Well, you had a game plan, but I guess I threw you off with the plan. But okay. What's the feeling towards Freddie Freeman in Atlanta? Has he lost a tiny bit of popularity? Just a tiny bit?
No, not really, because when I go to games in person, when we see anything about the Dodgers or things like that, the fans still show up and they wear his actual shirts. Like, I have a shirt with his name on the back, and they just act like he's an extension of the team still. It's kind of like Dansby Swanson, I mean, we just still have these players, but Freddie was so long tenured here. Like I said, he literally is like the face of the Braves. And so, and Freddie didn't want to go. Everybody was mad that the Braves got rid of him. They were like, of course they won a championship. Everybody wants more money. And they didn't pay him. They paid Ronald Acuna Jr. and they got
Well,
rid
they
of
didn't really pay Ronald Acuna Jr. The Braves are a smart organization. I know that they paid him, but they didn't pay him. Let me explain. They gave Acuna $100 million for 10 years when he was a young player because they projected he was definitely going to make it. He was going to be a star. You sign him early, you give him that money, you get a bargain. Now, and obviously that's life-changing money, and anything can happen. The greatest player could get injured. All of a sudden, he could forget how to play. And getting the $100 million contract made Acuna set for life unless he foolishly blows the money. But Acuna would have been worth so much more money later on, and the Braves signed him all those years. And other teams do that sometimes. They project a guy to be a great player going forward. They sign him immediately for a lot less than they'd have to give later on, and they don't have to compete with anyone. But the Braves did offer Freddie Freeman a contract. It didn't work out. And then Matt Olson, they signed Matt Olson from Oakland. It was like a good deal, there to be the first baseman. And he's worked out.
We still got Marcell Ozuna is still there, of course. And we've been trying to show some type of change in our win-loss pattern. I mean, we barely lost to the Reds a couple of days ago, 4-3, yesterday. And we actually had shut out the Reds on the 5th of May when we match up the series. But we're going to be playing the Pirates starting Friday, tomorrow, later today, this afternoon. And hopefully we can really regroup because we've been struggling ever since, in my opinion, they started letting those guys go.
And I want to thank the Braves for not signing Max Fried. He went to my Yankees. And right at this moment, he's the best pitcher. He's the best pitcher in baseball at this moment.
Yeah,
he has been incredible.
Jack, you couldn't wait to throw that dagger. You couldn't wait. I told you got rid of
Max Fried, who signed an 8-year contract with the Yankees, and he's been sensational. I mean, I can't tell you how good the guy has been. I mean, and we needed him with Garrett Cole getting injured, being out for the season. But with Freddie Freeman, my favorite player really should be Aaron Judge because he represents everything good with the game. And he is the best player in the game. But I kind of relate to a first baseman a little more. And I felt for Freddie Freeman leaving the Braves. He fired his agent after.
Yes, because that's the reason why. That's the reason why, Jack. His agent did a horrible job trying to negotiate the deal with the Braves, and Freddie said he didn't even know about it, Jack.
But if the Braves valued Freddie Freeman, and there's certain players who should be legacy players who should be with their team their whole career. It's more than just what they're worth on the field at that moment. There are very few players should be legacy players. There's so few, but Freddie Freeman was one for the Braves. So in defense of Freddie Freeman, if I'm the Braves and I want him to be my legacy player, regardless of his age, and I say, Freddie, are you home now? Can I stop by your house? And I say, Freddie, this is the situation. This is it. This is crunch time, okay? We love you here, but this is what we're offering. We're not negotiating anymore. We're serious. We'll give you a few days, but we're not negotiating further. And I would basically just tell them we're moving on. But they signed but what happened? The Braves, before they officially cut ties with Freddie Freeman, they covered their bases. They signed Matt Olson. So he kind of got a little blindsided. It's not like they said, thank you, Freddie. Good luck to you. And if they didn't sign Matt Olson and they told Freddie Freeman, we're moving on from you, he may have called back Freddie Freeman and said, look, I want to stay at Atlanta, and that's that. But it didn't quite happen.
Yeah, I'm still hurt about that. So
and if he goes, would he still be a favorite player if he plays, let's say, 6 more years for the LA Dodgers? They win a couple of other championships. He's outstanding. And when he goes in the Hall of Fame, he elects to go in as a Dodger instead of a Brave.
Whew. So I still really like him. I mean, I'm a fan of Soler also, and Azuna, and Dansby Swanson. Like, I'm a fan of that whole championship team, but Freddie Freeman was like my favorite. And so I kind of I mean, I'd be rooting him on, but I would be a little sad that he didn't go in as a Brave. I mean, I don't know if they do it like they do the NFL. Even if they play, can they come back and go in as another player?
No. You sometimes a player is split down the middle. Like, he's had a career of equal status with both teams.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a hard decision what to do. Major League Baseball made a decision on Gary Carter, who was the Montreal Expo catcher and the Met catcher. And Carter was like a big part of the Mets winning the 1986 World Series, was loved in New York, famous Met. Yet they decided he was going to go in as a Montreal Expo. Major League Baseball decided that.
Wow.
Dave Winfield played a lot of years with the Yankees and with the San Diego Padres. It was kind of close which one he'd go in with, but the Padres wanted him to go in as a Padre, and they gave him $1 million to go in as a Padre.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, $1 million, retired players would bite at that a lot more than they would today. So he took the money, the $1 million Winfield took, and he went in as a San Diego Padre. Mike Mussina had like an 18-year career, 10 with the Baltimore Orioles, 8 with the New York Yankees. He got into the Hall of Fame. He elected to go in as neither an Oriole or Yankee because he couldn't decide.
Oh, Lord.
He couldn't decide. I'll give you another case.
So he goes in independent? He just goes in as an independent player? Is that how?
Kind of as an independent. Yeah, that's like weird. Reggie Jackson played a total of, he played for the Yankees, the Angels, the Orioles, and the Athletics. But primarily he played, I think he played 5 years for the Angels, but he was never going in as an Angel. He played 5 years for the Yankees, 9 years as an Athletic. He won 3 World Series as an Athletic, 2 as a Yankee, but of course his most famous moments individually were more so as a Yankee. He elected to go in as a Yankee, even though his body of work as an Oakland Athletic was greater. And Major League Baseball didn't stop him because he had the famous 3 home run game and created a big buzz during the time he was in New York. But he went in as a Yankee, and it's it's what it is.
Yeah, well, listen. Y'all know my phrase is the verdict is still out, and it's still really early in baseball. I got to pin us back real quick because we did not get a chance to talk about the Nuggets and Thunder. They are tied for 1-1 right now. And the Thunder had a dominant performance. I mean, 149 and 106. There was no matchup whatsoever. They literally let Denver know we are going absolutely nowhere. We are not laying down. And actually, Jack, this is maybe where, Denver fans may look at it like, okay, this is why we have an interim head coach. It finally showed in that game.
Well, I'm going to say Denver going into the OKC series, we thought they'd be a tired team. They had that 7-game series with the Clippers, even though they won Game 7 decisively. There had to be a lot of emotions. OKC was rested, waiting for them. Yet Denver stole Game 1 against OKC at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, OKC had a 3-point lead with 9.5 seconds left, and it was a classic case of overcoaching by OKC. But that's done. And OKC, it didn't stay with them, to their credit. They lost that game. But to them, okay, we lost the game, forget about it. The series is now starting for us. They came in with a great attitude. They were raring to go. And I kind of have a feeling that the Nuggets were so emotionally drained from beating the Clippers and then winning Game 1 at OKC and knowing they were going back to Denver for games 3 and 4, they're probably thinking, well, we won one here. We'd like to win another one, but OKC came out with a vengeance. They're not playing around. They took it to the Nuggets. They didn't only want to show them that they were the better team. They wanted to show them they were the much better team. And I think that they kind of made a little bit of a statement in game 2. But if you're the Nuggets, you look at it as a throwaway game. Okay, better, get the game out of the way. We're tired. We lost. We know we're not going to sweep them. We needed to take a step back. We don't care how much they won by. We'll be ready for them when they come to Denver.
You know what the big difference in this game was than game 1, Jack? Nikola Jokic. He fouled out in the third quarter. He only had 17 points as opposed to the 42 points he had in game 1 and the 22 rebounds. In game 2, OKC set a franchise playoff record and tied the NBA playoff record with 87 points in the first half. 87. I mean, they didn't have to do nothing the rest of the game. Then Julius Alexander's efficiency. He led the Thunder with 34 points. He was the new Jokic. 34 points, 11 from 13 from the field, and 11 of 11 from his free throw line. He was flawless with 8 assists. Jokic was the difference maker by him fouling out. He never gave an opportunity for the Nuggets to come back.
Jokic is arguably the best all-around center in the history of the game. I mean, arguably. I mean, we keep hearing about the great centers. We hear about Russell, Chamberlain, Kareem, Shaq, Olajuwon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who does all the things that Jokic could do? Now, Kareem was pretty good if he was asked to do it. Kareem could actually dribble, and he was enough of a talent that if they needed Kareem to play a little guard in an emergency, he could dribble well. People don't realize about Kareem. But the way Jokic passes the ball, he hits the open man, he gets open. What concerns me about Jokic is kind of his big body. He looks like he's always tired in there. He's like lumbering all the time. Now, LeBron James has a big body too, but he seems to run the court, with a little more abandon than, Jokic kind of lumbers up and down the court, but he's always there when you need him.
Yeah,
he's always there when you need him.
Yes.
And I like the idea when I keep hearing, oh, well, the old timers couldn't keep up with the modern NBA players. Just look at them. If you insert Jokic into 1960s, 1970s, he'd look like the other guys lumbering the court.
Except not the tiny shorts, though, Jack.
No, not that. But then Denver, because they won an NBA title a couple of years ago, is a favorite in a lot of people's minds, but that really shouldn't figure into things. I don't want to hear, well, Denver knows what it takes to win. Yeah, they do on that one year. The players like Murray, Gordon, with Jokic, of course. But they also know what it takes to lose, because outside of that one championship year, they've gotten eliminated the other years. So I don't want to hear about it. I mean, what a team's done in the past usually doesn't have, much to do in the future. Once in a while, you can call upon the experience. If you played a number of game 7s before, it'll help you if you're playing a current game 7, because you've been there, you can control your nerves better, you're not as hyper, and so we'll see. But Denver, OKC, I kind of wonder, is how long Denver's going to hang in there, believe it or not. I like OKC. I know this is a little bold. I like OKC to win games 3 and 4 in Denver. How's that? That's a bold statement.
Ooh, that's a bold statement, but then that means that they are done, because if
they'll be done. They'll be done.
It's a wrap.
Yeah. And then we'll see what happens, with the winner, between Golden State and Minnesota, what'll happen there. But against OKC and Denver. But I think we haven't talked about another series, the Cavaliers and the Pacers. Now that's surprising the heck out of me.
Yeah.
That's the price. And I think Cleveland, they look pretty much cooked to me here, the way it is now. Now, I don't say it with confidence, OKC is going to win games 3 and 4. Don't get me wrong. I'm just coming up with a bold prediction.
Well,
You
I mean,
know,
yeah,
and when the show's over, I'm probably gonna say, yeah, they'll probably split in Denver. You know, I'll reassess. I'm just acting a little arrogant now with that
you
prediction.
you brought
A
up
little arrogant,
it's so, yeah.
but Cleveland and the Pacers. I
Those are
mean,
some
Dwight,
challenging games right there. I mean, 0-2, they're down. Like, I mean, 121, 112 in the last game, 121-19 in a close nail biter for game 2. And I mean, Tyrese Halliburton and this whole fiasco. I mean, Donovan Mitchell being on he's expected to come back for game 3. So is Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter. They may even attempt to play in game 3. This may be their only saving grace, but their status is still uncertain, Jack.
did you hear what your favorite sports analyst had to say? Stephen A. Smith.
I knew you were going to talk about him. He
was getting on Darius Garland. Of all people, I mean, I guess Darius Garland to get his name out there, and he was putting him down. He was saying, he said, I'm paraphrasing. He said something to the effect, I'm not questioning the brother's toe, whether it's really injured. I'm not, yeah, he throws in the word brother, whatever. But he's not questioning the severity of the injury, why Darius Garland can't play. But unless your toe is falling off, you better get yourself on the court with the season on the line. Doesn't he think Darius Garland wants to win bad enough? Does he think Darius Garland can play but can't go? Only Darius Garland knows the way he feels.
What is
once in a while, I'll just say, Sonja, and then I'll finish quick on this. Once in a while, you had to have a player who kind of milks out an injury. I understand that. Some people felt that way about Ben Simmons. I can understand questioning it, but not Darius Garland. If his toe prohibits him from being able to jump, put any weight on it, I know as a runner, you get shut down.
I mean, what's baffling to me is how loud Stephen A. always is, and he's never played a down in the NFL, and he's never caught a basket in the NBA. As a writer, he was a writer, a well-known writer, but the fact that he can always come out, because this is not the first time he's made comments about players' injuries, and be the basically team expert. He knows more than the medical doctors. These professional teams have professional doctors who can tell whether or not someone's injury is significant enough for them to miss games. And the fact that this team is in the playoffs, there is no way a team doctor is going to say, oh, he can't play just because he's told him not to say that. They are trying to win a championship. And so Stephen A. is loud and wrong as usual.
Yeah, no, I like Stephen A. Don't get me wrong. I actually like to listen to Stephen A. I don't feel he's a bad guy. And I'm friends with Max Kellerman. And Max,
yeah,
and him didn't have the most pleasant falling out. Stuff that I was told I'm going to keep to myself always. But there was a case years ago, a pitcher on the Houston Astros. I don't know whether you heard of him, J.R. Richard.
The name sounds familiar.
He couldn't pitch. He kept saying he's not feeling well. He's not feeling well. He's not feeling well. The doctors would check him and say, nah, he's good to go. And he said he wasn't good to go, and he was accused of dogging it. And then he had a stroke a little after that. So he did have, something there that threw him off the way he felt. And that's why I wouldn't question. I hope no one questions Porzingis if the Celtics lose this series, because I know how it feels. You have a virus, okay? Because I had a virus a few years ago. It put me out for like 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I can hardly do anything for 6 weeks. And I thought to myself, if I was a ball player and I had to play the Super Bowl the way I'm playing now, I'm staying home. I'm not even trying to play. Was
We
so
saw that
weak.
with Jalen Hurts when he had some type of flu. They made sure they said it wasn't COVID, but he traveled separately and everything last year when the Eagles were eliminated.
But believe these players, if they can't play whatever, it happened a time something. Remember the Bear quarterback Jay Cutler? I think
He
when
like he didn't care about nothing.
Was he on the Bears then or whatever? It was in the playoff game, and he left the game early, and he was standing on the sideline because he left early because of his knee, and everyone was criticizing him.
Yep.
Oh, he should have gotten in there, tried to play. He's a quitter. He's standing. There's a big difference between playing and standing if your knee hurts.
Well, that's because Jay Cutler never gave a darn. Everybody knows that he went into retirement and then the Dolphins drafted him, and everybody was like, he looked like he cared more about playing for the Dolphins that one season than he did with the Bears. Jay Cutler was horrible as far as showing enthusiasm about the game. He would throw an interception and his poker face was unwrinkled. He didn't even care. So when he had that little knee situation, Bears fans went crazy. They were like, we're sick of him. Get him out of there because he's already. Listen, me as a Panthers fan, I knew how Jay Cutler was, and we only played them like every 3 to 4 years. And I even knew he had an I don't care attitude. Now, Jack, we got about 9 minutes left, and I do want to talk some NFL since you brought that in there. Speaking of not playing and injuries, I want to talk about my team, which is something I rarely do, but there was 2 roster moves today with the Panthers, Carolina Panthers, that is. Jadeveon Clowney was released, veteran pass rusher. This has been talked about for a few days now. Will it happen today? He was a 3-time Pro Bowler and former number 1 overall pick. Only recorded 5.5 sacks and 46 tackles in 14 starts during this season. His release fees, Jack, $7.8 million in cap space for the Panthers. And then secondly, since you're talking about injuries, Jonathan Brooks, who the Panthers drafted last year, drafted him. He was injured. He was on crutches at the draft. They drafted him. He got better. The Panthers team doctors at the time cleared him to play. He got a torn ACL on his second leg. And so the Panthers fired their medical staff that cleared him because they cleared him prematurely. Well, today the running back has been placed on the PUP list, not just for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, the entire 2025 season, Jack, because he got hurt again in December, making it his second major knee injury within the same amount of years.
Well, I don't understand. Maybe you do, and you could explain it to me. Brooks isn't going to be playing this year, but the inactive list he was put on, is he still technically a member of the Panthers? I mean, was he cut or just put on an inactive list? There's a big difference. If he was cut, once he gets healthy, he could try out for any other team. Do the Panthers still have the rights to him? Because it seems a little odd and it would seem a little cold. You fire, a train on the medical staff because of the way he handled it, and then cut the player. That seems a little cruel.
Yeah, I'm gonna look because one article has he was released, the other one just talked about him being on PUP. But you're right, it's 2 different things. So basically, they're saying right now he's on the PUP list. The decision follows his torn ACL that he got in the Eagles game, no doubt, with them. And it was a non-contact injury, basically, when a rookie ran out and tried to cut during a run. But let me see what he's got with Clowney. Him available. Mm-hmm.
But with Clowney,
wow.
About Brooks. With Clowney, I wouldn't shed too much of a tear. His career's been a disappointment. Number 1 overall draft choice, taken by the Houston Texans. They were going to match him with J.J. Watt.
Yeah,
it was going to be a terrific 1-2 punch. And Clowney, he's been a good player. Mm-hmm. No more than good. I like to give grades. You know what Clowney's like?
See?
He's a university student with a B average.
Oh, a B.
A B. Oh, no, but listen. But meanwhile, when he was given his scholarship to college, He was considered the smartest student in his whole high school. The best grades in his high school. Now he gets to college and he can't get A's. He's a B. 3-time Pro Bowler. He's been okay, but he hasn't given you what you want a number one overall draft choice to give you as a position player. Now, quarterbacks are hit and miss as number one overall draft choices, like a Jameis Winston. You give quarterbacks a long time. You don't know how they're going to fare. But with Clowney, he'd have certain flashes where he'd look really, really good, but he was never really a dominant player, never showed any long-term consistency. 3 Pro Bowls. He's had a nice little career, but not worthy of a number one overall pick.
He's had a career all right. So let me tell you real quick, Brooks, they're expecting him to make a recovery, and we'll see him in 2026. So the Panthers are going to keep him.
So he wasn't cut. He wasn't cut. No, the Panthers did it the right way. Kudos.
Yes, especially because him being cleared is really the Panthers' fault to begin with, that he got that second injury. Now, Clowney, the thing, Jack, they tried to trade Clowney and nobody wanted him. He's been in the league 7 years and been on 7 teams already. So he's with a new team every year. He's with the Texans, the Seahawks, the Titans, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Panthers. I mean, who would, at this point, it's like, who's going to want him?
Someone will pick him up. If not immediately, at some point, the defensive end is going to get injured on one of the teams, and they might look to Clowney. I mean, it's just the way it works. Listen, Hassan Reddick, for example, coming to the Jets was an absolute nightmare. He held out. He lost some money. Then eventually he rejoined the Jets, and he was missing in action when he was on the field. He was missing in action when he was off the field. He was missing in action, Hassan Reddick, when he was on the field. No one ever said a sighting of him, even when he came back. And then Tampa Bay signed him in the offseason because he has a reputation. And Clowney has a little bit of a reputation. And some team is going to, step up and at some point, not sign him for big money, but he'll get a job somewhere. Maybe a deal with certain incentives. I don't know.
Well, I mean, a couple of days ago, Pittsburgh released George Pickens, sent him to the Cowboys for a couple of picks.
Well, they traded him.
I said sent trade him.
Mike Tomlin was behind that reportedly.
That's what I saw. They said Mike Tomlin was pushing for it because this dude is a head case, Jack. He's an emotional disaster. He's a locker room eyesore. He is just a ruin. And so sending him out there with CeeDee Lamb, people have, and this is where we're gonna wrap all this up. They still don't even have their quarterback, really. Even with Kenny Pickett, they are not sold on him. You send him to the Cowboys. I mean, there's no competition there because they're in the NFC, they're in the AFC. But
Kenny Pickett went to the Browns, so he was irrelevant.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
No, but he'll have Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is a good leader.
But he's not going to be a number one. He's not going to be a number one receiver, and that's what he wants to be. But because the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb, they already have their number one target. He's going to be pitching a fit because he's not getting targeted, because he's number 2 again in the locker room. And let's be clear, we have not seen Dak throw since he's had this hamstring surgery that he had in the offseason and missed most of last season. So they're still a mess. But some critics are saying that we may see a glimpse of the Michael Irvin run in the 90s with the Cowboys with him coming out there.
But it's worth the gamble for the Cowboys. Think of what they gave up. They gave up a 3rd-round draft choice, and they flip-flopped 5th and 6th, right? Mm-hmm. So 5th and 6th isn't that big of a deal. It means a little, but it's not that big of a deal. And so if it doesn't work out for the Cowboys, they lost a 3rd-round draft choice. It has value, but it's worth taking a chance. And what happens if it does work out? Mm-hmm. What happens if there's a chemistry with Dak Prescott and Pickens? And Pickens is, happy there. He could produce, Obviously, he's very talented. And it's worth a gamble for Dallas. And also, Dallas had to do something in the offseason. They were heavily criticized not making moves. And this is a move. this, this will quiet their fan base for the time being. Oh, we are doing something. We picked up George Pickens, who could make an impact. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of Dallas, but not the team Dallas, Dallas Goedert, the tight end for the Eagles, has finally restructured his deal despite them talking about trading him. They are going to keep him with the Eagles next season. He restructured his deal with them. Also, Saquon Barkley is training a 360-degree spin move, some new move he's coming up with that he's going to be aiming to debut next season. And let's not forget some of these critical rules that are coming into place, like the moving of the chains is going to be all AI generated, Jack. So it won't be no more challenging for the first down, the index card measuring, none of that.
Let me tell you a new rule I'd like to see in the NFL, and no one's mentioned it. Okay, if I'm an official and I'm conferring with the other officials, I don't want players standing right behind me. I mean, there should be a rule. Any player that's within, 5 yards of the officials or whatever, you throw a flag. You can't go near the officials when they're discussing things and give you 2 cents. It would be highly annoying to me if I'm an official.
I always wondered about that because I'm like, it's like they're right there. And I always thought growing up that players were not supposed to communicate with officials, that, they're the unbiased part.
I don't know they're communicating verbally. I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't say that. But I know they're standing right behind the officials.
Yeah, and sometimes if they're mic'd up, you can hear them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, the schedule comes out next week, Jack, May 14th. We get a chance. I mean, of course, most teams know the opponents, but they don't know the exact dates or what have you. The week 1 is going to be the Chargers are going to be hosting a game in Brazil, marking the second year that the NFL is going to have their season opener over there. And then the Browns and your team, the Jets, are going to be hosting games in London, and the Colts will host their game in Germany, making it the first NFL game in Berlin, Germany. And then the Steelers are going to be hosting a game in Dublin, Ireland, which is going to be making the NFL's debut in that country. So as we wrap up here, we knew Roger Goodell talked about spreading the NFL worldwide. I mean, is this a step in the right direction? They're adding 3 more countries.
I mean, they're going to have a team in another country. Is it viable to have an NFL franchise in England? I mean, teams from the West Coast of the United States can't really fly there. Let's say you put them in the Jets division for whatever reason. It's like a 7-hour flight or something like that. Mm-hmm. Is it doable? That would be interesting. Otherwise, it's just exposing the NFL, like on a per diem basis. But if it makes fans happy, and for the players, I don't know how they feel about it. Is it an adventure to them or what? Is it annoying to them? Some of them might like the idea of traveling the other country, playing a game. Then there's security concerns with the world we're living in, too.
There's definitely security concerns, and there was a security concern even last year with the opener because they didn't realize that the team was going to be restricted to their hotel and to certain movements because of the colors of the team being, controversial to gangs that were in the area, Jack. So security for that reason, I personally don't want to travel to another country if I'm going to be limited to my hotel in certain square. You don't get a chance to have some downtime at all. But of course, with that schedule coming out, I'm sure they're going to be beefing up their security measures and making sure those are countries that we can actually still travel to, because that do not travel list is being updated on a weekly basis. I'm getting emails about that all the time. So I'm sure the NFL is going to be definitely cognizant of that.
Well, I want the NFL, to have teams wear the same darn uniform throughout the year. They keep changing it. I could understand if they're wearing a throwback uniform to what they wore earlier when they were franchise. Okay. I like the jet green, the way they used to have it. But, Giants blue. You don't see it quite the same way. Sometimes you look at some of these uniforms and like, what team are you watching?
Yeah, they better stick with just white when they're traveling internationally to be on the safe side. Jack, always a good conversation with you. Lots of fun. We wish everybody a great weekend. We'll be with you guys tomorrow morning for the debate show. Both of us and Jay Trey will be joining us. And of course, today we have shows throughout. Download the Roku app. And we appreciate you guys. Miss Linda, we love you.
We do.